Yo, what's up, JMart? Happy Monday. I don't think I've ever talked to you on a Monday, man. What's going on?
No, not much. No, I'm going good. No class for MLK Day, so nice little break. That's nice.
I don't know where we're going to start because obviously we had 4 games over the weekend. All 4 of them could take up their own pod, just so many different storylines. We got Indiana, Miami tonight. We're going to do that in the end. But I feel like we got to start with McDermott because I was going to record first thing this morning if you weren't available, and I wouldn't have had a chance to talk about it. So let's do that first because I'm curious on your thoughts. You tell me your thoughts on it, and then I'll share mine. As the Bills, in case I'm breaking the news, the Bills get rid of Sean McDermott after Josh Allen wets the bed yesterday in Denver, Saturday, but somehow McDermott gets the axe. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as they lost the game, I turned to the friends I was watching it with and asked, like, is this like the catalyst to fire McDermott now? I mean, he's been on the hot seat for a while. I don't really know how warranted it is. Like, again, they are still a competitive team. It's not like they had a bad year.
Right.
It's a tough way to go out, but again, like optics wise, like you lose to the 1 seed in overtime by a field goal. Doesn't feel too bad. You look at some of the calls down the stretch. I mean, it's very fair to argue that it wasn't McDermott's fault in any way for them losing this game. Um, I think it signals more than anything, though, that anything less than a Super Bowl run this year would have meant McDermott got fired.
Yeah. Is it
Yeah,
not the same situation as Baltimore where, like, separately, yeah, you can get rid of the coach? There was probably a different year to do it, though. It seems like a tough year to do it to McDermott. I thought Allen was just terrible on Saturday.
no, yeah, I agree. I thought I don't know. I mean, that Broncos defense, again, optics wise, you're going to look bad against that secondary. It's elite, it's electric. And I think he did a lot of good things, but then at the same time, like, probably is the reason they lose. Like, again, the turnovers were ridiculous. That last pick isn't really on him. And you could argue it wasn't even really an interception. But I think that, yeah, Allen needs to do more. He's supposed to be the best quarterback in the league, and he shouldn't be a quarterback that's losing your season for you. And I think he did ultimately end up doing that.
He did, right, because you build the team around him. I think it was Knox, either Knox or Kincaid. One of them was wide open, though, at the end of the game, and he just missed it. And, Romo said we only saw one replay. Romo said that Nicole Hardman kept on the in route. Like, I guess he kept going deeper than Allen thought, but just from the naked eye, it just looked like a bad throw, like he underthrew him. And then right before the half, you give him 3 points by I was surprised. I really thought Buffalo, I thought the defense actually played pretty well down the stretch. And then the interesting thing to me is the problem with the Bills this year was they didn't get Allen enough weapons, but whoever's in charge of that, Brandon Bean, I think's his name, got promoted. So good for him. He gets promoted. McDermott gets the axe. Where does McDermott go? Do you even care, or is it more relevant to who do you think the Bills get?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's another big thing is there are a decent amount of solid coaching options like out there right now. Currently, Lincoln Riley has been talking about for a while now, making that transition. This is probably a good opportunity for him as he's losing 2 really good receivers to the draft, and now there are all these options. Mike McDaniel's out there if that's something you want to deal with. Obviously, Mike Tomlin's still available. But I think it's kind of they moved late. Like, I feel like they would have really benefited from a John Harbaugh, from a Kevin Stefanski. Realistically, the only option I can see is they felt like they were going to lose Joe Brady this offseason and thought they would just need to fire him to then go and promote Brady, similar to how people say the Ravens probably should have fired Harbaugh to promote what's his name, Mike McDonald. And I think that maybe, if anything, that's the route they're going. But the other side of the coin is that I don't think Bills fans love Joe Brady. I think he gets a lot more appeal outside of the Buffalo fan base. I don't think they'd necessarily be happy to see him get promoted. So Buffalo's in a weird spot now for sure. I mean, good news for them is they will still have Josh Allen at the end of the day. They will still have a decent team to build around, but I still am a little shocked to see that they actually did pull the trigger, especially just given all the circumstances.
Yeah, let's go through that game a little bit, and from Denver's perspective, because obviously the headline coming out of it is that they're going to go with Jarrett Stidham at quarterback. Bo Nix breaks his ankle. Look, I'm not trying to be contrarian. This helps Denver. I know the spread's not going to reflect it, but here's my 2 reasons why it helps Denver. One, Bo Nix is just not that good. And it's just not that good. And I think the fact that there's 0 film on Stidham with this roster, right? He took a couple snaps in 2023 for the Broncos, or at 2 games at the end of the year. And I don't like Sean Payton, but I like Sean Payton in this spot. Meaning, I don't love his decision making on 4th down, his game management, kind of just his personality in general. But I respect a 1-game situation. I thought he did a great job picking on the Bills' corners. I think he did it twice, when the corner and the safety, as soon as there was an injury, the next play, he went right after him in the moment. Bo Nix makes a couple deep throws. But I wonder if Stidham keeps him on track a little bit. And I saw enough issues with the Patriots defense yesterday where I'm like, Stroud was making a lot of those mistakes. There's a couple guys open down the middle. I think that's the weaker part of the Patriots defense. So I come away looking at the previewing the Patriots game and recapping the Broncos-Bills game. I came away thinking the Broncos are going to do way better now as being the underdog. Like, now they get to play with their chip on their shoulder, and I actually like them more without Bo Nix. What about you?
So I don't know if I necessarily can agree with liking them more, just because like I think that we saw Bo Nix's ability to make some of those tight passes. Like, there was that touchdown, I think, end of the 3rd quarter around there, where he really just put it in the basket. Or that might have been end of the first half. And you're just not going to see that from Jarrett Stidham. I watched him in college at Auburn. He's a really solid quarterback, but the arm talent just isn't NFL caliber. But I do agree in the sense that they have a good run offense that I think they underutilized against Buffalo last week. I really think if they run the ball more against that really bad Buffalo run defense, that game probably shouldn't even be a 1-possession game at the end of the 4th quarter. They really should have won that game by 2 possessions. They just put too much of the pressure into Bo Nix's hands. But the big thing that'll help Jarrett Stidham is that Sean Payton loves quick passes and screen passes. And those are passes that Stidham is good at. He's career backup for a reason. He's good at making the easy passes. He can get you into 3rd and manageable, 2nd and manageable. He's good at that side of the game. I look at guys like Marvin Mims, Cortland Sutton, decent guys when catching screen passes. And then even RJ Harvey, who's a really good receiving option as a running back. Stidham shouldn't need to do too much. I think that the Broncos defense can pick on Drake May. He hasn't been good in really any aspect realistically in this playoff run. I expect the Broncos secondary to make him look relatively weak. And I think that, I think that Stidham can actually keep him in the game more than people are giving them credit for. But I think Bo Nix's running ability will be definitely missed in this game against the Patriots.
Can Stidham move at all?
I mean, no, I like he's an athlete, and you are seeing current NFL quarterbacks have to be able to run a little bit, but he's not a guy that will do anything near what you saw from Bo Nix. He played at Auburn. Auburn typically gets their quarterbacks a little mobile, but he's not the kind of guy that's really going to be able to like pressure your feet.
Yeah, but to your point, it might force Peyton's hand. He just, the play calling in the second half for the Broncos was too aggressive. All right, let's touch on the Patriots as we continue the preview. So, that was a masterclass in turnovers. That really felt like the first run of break. I mean, this is so fucking similar. It's nauseating. I don't know if you were alive for it. I forget how old you are at this point, but Brady's first run, they get every call. They're holding, it's snowing, and the quarterback is he's okay. I mean, he made a couple throws that look, the way he throws these deep balls is fantastic. Keyshawn Boutte, he was a LSU guy, right?
I believe so. Yes, I think. Yeah.
Couple tough catches from him, but their strength, right, which is our couple deep balls down the sideline against corners from Denver. They're the best in the NFL. So then it's going to force Drake to, maybe process things a little bit more, use the middle of the field. And the Texans just kept knocking the ball out of his hands. So there's 2 schools of thought. It's either he's gotten these turnovers and these 2 bad games out of the system, and now he'll be a little bit more polished, and the Patriots defense will just grind it away, and that'll just be the end of it. Or the Texans offense made that Patriots defense look a hell of a lot better than it really is. And all those turnovers are the reason they lost the game. I mean, outside of that, the Texans were able to get a couple throws down the field. So what was your takeaway mainly from the Patriots' perspective?
I mean, they didn't look good offensively really at all. They got gifted great field position. They got gifted 7 points. Like, it's CJ Stroud looked horrible, and that is to the credit more really of the Patriots defense. They looked great, but Stroud's decision-making at times was really bad. He was scared to take sacks when he probably should have taken sacks. That leads to one of the interceptions. His receivers didn't help him out at times. And I also think the Texans really tried to run the ball just way too long into that game. I mean, I think there was a point where Woody Marks had 13 carries for 13 yards. And it's like at that point, you should have probably stopped running the ball as aggressively 3 carries ago. Like he just shouldn't keep trying to pound it. You're losing clock. You're just kind of funneling right into what the
You
Patriots do.
Yeah, to that clock management and play. Can you believe he punted the ball? I mean, I know it's 4th and 18, but what the
No, I
fuck?
can't. I mean, you just got to throw a prayer up. Like that's the other option. You might get a defensive holding. You might get a DPI.
Right.
When you force the ball down the field like that, things can happen. You could tell they missed Nico Collins, which was a big factor in this game. I think you have a deep threat like him available. I think it makes the Texans a little more competitive. But yeah, I didn't see offensively from the Patriots really much to write home about. Like I think Ramondre Stevenson ran the ball pretty efficiently, but they couldn't get him the ball that well in the passing game. He I think 4 catches, 11 yards. He's typically a guy you see getting more involved. Travion Henderson has been non-existent this playoffs. He's really been able to do nothing. I don't think that they've really done anything exceptional except just profit off of the mistakes of the other teams. And I think that Peyton's really gonna nail into Stidham's head that you can't make that mistake. Take the easy pass or throw it away, but don't force the ball into spots where you just probably won't be able to get it. And I think that is another benefit of having a backup in this game. Patriots shouldn't be able to make these big plays on mistakes from overconfident passes.
Yeah, I think the 5.5 point spread is way too many points. I like Denver a lot. All right, let's do the NFC. Start with the Niners Seahawks. If there was one team that could not survive the kickoff return for the touchdown, it would be the Niners, right? They scored 3 points against Seattle last time they saw them. The last thing they needed to do was give up 7 before the game starts. Then they proceed to go down the field, and then I don't know what that 4th down call was. And then it's just body blow after body blow. I'm not trying to make excuses, even though it sounds like it, but they could not have handed the Seahawks the game more than they did. So if you just forget the fact I got the game wrong, it is what it is. But when you spring it forward and you look at Seattle, what did you really take away from the Seahawks? Because my whole thing was, can we replay that game? Because I just felt like everything possible went wrong for the Niners. And I thought Purdy actually was pretty good in the first half. So I'm not convinced that that would be the outcome most times, but you tell me.
No, I agree. I think that you saw CMC really strong connection in the pass game that was working really well for them. Once he went out, they have no options. Like Ricky Pearsall's playing on one leg already. He's not going to be able to just be the guy he's supposed to be. So that makes now what we're talking realistically. Like I know Jawan Jennings was out there a little bit, but you're relying on Demarcus Robinson, Kendrick Bourne. These are guys that are capable but not great. Jake Tongs, I think, ended up getting hurt as well. It's all his favorite options in that first half died basically before the end of the first half. And yeah, the Seahawks were able to run the ball really, really well. And I think that's going to continue to be there. That is a really good 2-back system. I think you'll start seeing more carries go Kenneth Walker's way in comparison to Charbonnet, because I think he's been the better back the entire season. I think that now is the time where you really start to separate them from a 1A, 1B to a true number 1, number 2. But yeah, Darnold I think the big part is that Darnold wasn't put under pressure at any point during this game. The read on Darnold is once it gets tough, he can kind of crumble.
He didn't look great.
Yeah, he didn't have to do anything, and he never felt pressure. It was just a typical game for him. I don't expect you to see that when you play against that Rams team that will score points. They're going to score against you. I know this Seahawks defense is electric. The Rams are really going to be able to move the ball, and I think that Darnold will be under more pressure. The front 7 for the Rams is a lot better. I still need to see what Darnold does when the lights are really bright, when he feels the pressure from the other defense, because that game didn't really feel real. It just felt like they kind of just coasted. They got the free 7 at the beginning and just kind of were able to just move the ball as they should. And yeah,
it was such a letdown from that Bills Broncos. Bills Broncos wasn't the highest level of skill, but it was back and forth, very exciting. And then you get to that game and it's like, man, this is over with. So what about last night though? Because I came away from that Bears Rams game, look, I don't mind being wrong about things. That one I got right. I knew just the Bears, I shouldn't say I knew, but it felt like that game was going to come down to the last couple of seconds, one way or the other. And it does. Caleb makes the fantastic play. That's great. What about the overtime situation? Are you going to blame Caleb, DJ Moore, a play call? Because the Bears felt like they're going to win this game. I mean, in overtime, they're converting every 3rd down. Caleb took a hit on one of them on the sidelines where I was like, all right, that's it right there. Like he took the hit. I don't know how many other quarterbacks could have turned the corner like that and still got the yard. And then I don't know if it was the next play or the second play after that, but the deep route where DJ Moore just doesn't think the ball's coming to him. Where are we at? And then after we recap the Bears, we'll do Seahawks Rams.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking back at it, I think the Bears were running the ball really well on that drive ahead of time. And I don't love the play call particularly. I don't think it's really doing much for you regardless, but Moore has to run his route. I don't know what he's doing. It's like it's overtime in the divisional. Like I really don't care if you don't think the ball is coming to you. Like you are there's not a bigger situation here. And I get that he comes from the Panthers. He doesn't really know what this feels like at all, but like you got to figure it out. The second argument is that I don't necessarily know if he would have gotten to the ball anyways. Like it did feel like the safety kind of had the leverage on him already, but that's the other thing is that the safety's right in front of him and he's still not running the route. He's still like dozing off on it. It was a bad throw clearly, but if there's one quarterback in the league who can probably fit it into that tight of a pocket in that kind of situation, it probably is like Caleb Williams on his day. But I really don't think that the overtime mattered as much as what came beforehand. The Bears were horrendous on fourth down, specifically from like 4th and 1, 4th and 2. Apparently they do have a tush push play that they just chose to not run the entire season. They run it in overtime and it works. And like now you're like, okay, we can do stuff here. But the Bears I think they flushed 9 points down the toilet by really bad fourth down play calling. It might have even been more. I think that just they were wasteful a lot of the game. They've done this a long time, but it will come back to you at a certain point. Exactly. And yeah, the Rams didn't put the game away. Like the Rams really felt like they had so many opportunities to kind of pounce on the Bears. The Bears turned the ball over 3 times. It's a big deal, and the Rams still have to go to overtime against them. I think the Bears should have won the game, and I do also look back. I get why they wanted to have the ball second to an extent. I do think people like after watching that Bills-Broncos game where like overtime's a little different now, I kind of would like the idea of getting the ball first, especially with momentum on your side. Because then that way, if both teams punt, if both teams don't end up scoring, you do end up getting the ball first again.
Right. It's one of those things where there's no analytics for momentum.
Yeah. And it's like, it's cool. Like, I get you want to see what the other team does first, kind of, but I would also like to have the ball guaranteed more than the other team in overtime, especially with the way it works. So right. I think it just didn't work out. I thought the Bears defense has always been leaky. When you turn the ball over in that manner, in that position on the field too, it's going to get rough. And the run defense started looking really bad at the end of the game. The Bears just couldn't stop Kyron Williams. He ran the ball well. And then right at the end, Puka Nacua makes the big play. And yeah, at that point, it is kind of tough to come back from that game. But I think 3 picks is something that Caleb Williams can't do. But first time in the playoffs, I think it's one of those weird situations where like the Bears were just happy to be there. The Rams have something to play for. They're a real contender. And while the Bears did win games like a real contender, no one can act like they saw this coming. As a Bears fan, I'm just happy that they got there. And yeah, this team should be better next year. And so this is just a positive sign moving forward.
I agree. And, you know, the way we have in the offense in the AFC Championship, the offense versus the defense from the coach perspective, Vrabel versus Peyton, we get this one is like a classic as McDonald versus McVay. Third time. Last time it was played in, you know, McVay's terms, if you will, by being a 38-37. Seahawks have to win in a crazy way. That's not how McDonald wants this game to go. I think everybody can agree that the more points that are scored favors the Rams. The uglier and the lower the score, the better for the Seahawks. Do you have a gut feeling on – I really don't have a strong opinion on that one. I got to think about it for a little bit. I want to rewatch the second game and just have a lot more to digest. My gut is pretty strong on the Broncos covering. What about you for the Seahawks and the Rams?
I mean, look, the question is like the Seahawks are such a hard team to like pick up on because of Sam Darnold. It comes down to his confidence. Like if he should be coming into the game with a ton of it, but he throws a pick early on, like it ruins the game for the Seahawks. They have to run the ball more. He won't be as polished of a quarterback. Stafford doesn't have that. Stafford will be Matthew Stafford no matter what. You see Puka have kind of an off game against the Bears. That was a little unexpected. I don't really expect to see that again, even though the Seahawks secondary is as good as they are. I think if there's one guy that you don't want to be right now, it's Mike McDonald having to go against a guy like Sean McVay for a third time this season. Like if you thought he figured something out the second time, I don't see an adjustment being made on McDonald's part that won't be seen by McVay. It's hard to bet against a guy as good as McVay in this matchup. I like the Rams a lot, but Lumen Field, the way the Seahawks defense has been these past couple weeks, I probably have to go Seahawks by a really close margin. If that line comes out at 3.5, I'd probably expect the Rams to cover though.
Yeah, it started at 2.5. I doubt it goes up. I would imagine it would go down. I think more people would take the Rams for the Stafford. I just, when push comes to shove, I think the Rams will get the most bets. We'll maybe we're gonna figure out our situation as far as the next time we're gonna do a pod, whether it be. But anyway, we'll figure that part out. I want to close here because we got a good 5-10 minutes. This Miami Indiana game. So let me get this out of the way, and then I want your perspective on everything. This is such a letdown. Like, I can't even. They have to switch the schedule. I don't want to be like a party pooper here, but this is just. I'm having a hard time getting hyped here from Miami, Indiana. Like, it's Monday. I got all these NFL games on my mind. So I got to refocus the brain here. Everybody wants to bet this game. Like, it's basically the Super Bowl. You have to bet. You have to have an opinion. And this game sets up perfectly to have, like, a strong opinion one way or the other. Because if you like Miami, you have to be liking Miami to win the game. Like, that's my betting advice for tonight. It's 8.5 points. If you like Miami to win the game, take the 8.5 points. If you like Miami to win the game, take the 8.5 points. But if you don't think Miami can win this game, but you're like, I think I'll keep it close, you're really not following this Indiana program. Because if Indiana is going to blow them out, it's going to be a 3-score game. I don't see it really being 10, 14 points. Do you agree with me that it's 17 or above, or Miami, Indiana is coming down to the last 30 seconds?
I fully agree. I've done some thinking really on like Indiana, Miami based off like who they've played, the one comparable matchup they have between each other, which does bring up an interesting storyline. But yeah, I think like either Indiana's as good as they've looked all season. They've really just beaten good teams and just made them look really bad. Or they haven't, and they've gotten lucky. And there's an argument to be made that they have just had a lucky route to the playoffs. I know it's a crazy thing to say. They are a good team. Mendoza's electric, but if you think that Indiana's going to win, yeah, they're going to win by like 15. I would add points to the spread if I were you, because it's not going to be an 8.5. It's not going to be a close line. They're going to win by a ton. I think if it ends up within one possession, then Indiana really kind of goofed up a little, dropped the ball. They aren't actually as good as we thought. And then I would like Miami a little more. I think Beck's playing some of the best. Like, it started off a little rocky with that A&M game. He's progressively gotten better and better. I think he'll be at his best he's been all season for this national championship game. They have a good run defense. Malachi Tony's a guy that I think Indiana should struggle to find an answer for. I can see it being close, and I think it would go Miami's way. But yeah, if you're betting on it, I really think you should bet on Indiana to cover by a ton and just be fine with being wrong, because like nothing points really to anything but an Indiana blowout, in my opinion.
Why would all right, let me say it like this. Miami's defense has been that's the argument, right? They're just going to keep this game close, except Ole Miss scored all those points. So which one is it? Is it that Miami's defense really isn't that great and they just caught Ohio State at the perfect time with the perfect layoff against a freshman quarterback, and the dynamic ability of Mendoza is so similar to that of Chambliss that Indiana's going to score points? And then on the other side, Miami's not going to keep up. Is it really that simple that the styles of play from Indiana and Ole Miss are too similar? Like, is that why Miami's defense is going to struggle? Or do you think there's something about Ole Miss's offense that was so electric that Indiana can't necessarily duplicate?
Well, yeah, I think like if we're being honest, I've said this for a minute now. I think Trinidad Chambliss was the best quarterback in college this year. I get Mendoza wins the Heisman, but just look back at the numbers. I think Ole Miss ran the best offense in college football all year. They were electric. They had a great run game. They had a quarterback that could do it both with his legs and his arms, 3 electric receivers, good tight end play. I mean, the offense didn't have a flaw. Like, they went into Athens, they played Georgia there, dominated the whole game, put up 35 at home. That's a rare feat. Like, Alabama beats Georgia at home. They only score 24. Ole Miss had a incredible offense, better than Indiana. I don't have a hard time saying that. I think definitely more dynamic. Mendoza is much more contained. He will play within what he's given. He will take the easy option. He's efficient. He's smart. If there isn't a pass there, he knows I'm running or I'm throwing it away. He's not going to make that big mistake. He's not going to take that big risk. The issue is Miami doesn't really rely on mistakes by the other quarterback. They're not here for turnovers necessarily. They're here to kind of like they're here to stranglehold you and kind of force you into finally feeling uncomfortable and finally having to push for something. And I think that that's an interesting matchup for Mendoza. I think Indiana will play a little cagey early on. I don't expect them to come out with an absolute like dot first play. They're going to play their offense, try and force their way down the field, but I can see Miami having that advantage if you're trying to play ahead of the sticks. They did it against A&M. They did it against Ohio State. It's an interesting matchup. I just looking at it, I think that Miami with Carson Beck at quarterback, if he plays out of himself, he goes for too much. You will see turnovers. I expect Indiana to win the turnover margin, and it just depends what they do with it. But I think for me, the biggest argument is I brushed on it a little earlier is Indiana's run to the college football playoff, just through the playoffs. It can be argued objectively that they just had a good draw. Like Alabama's a team that we know when they're on, they're electric. When they're off, they're really bad. They lost to Florida State. Like they're a team that can struggle immensely when they're having a bad game. You could say they just had a bad game against Indiana. It fell apart early and then they never really got back up. Oregon only beat Texas Tech and James Madison. We don't really know how good Texas Tech was.
And that Oregon game was similar to that Seahawks 49ers, the pick six, the start of the game was just
the game never really felt like it started there. And again, you can make the argument that Oregon just wasn't great all season because again, looking back, Oregon doesn't have a good win on their resume. They just don't. The best win was probably Texas Tech, and we don't really know how good that was. Miami has had to go through an A&M team that I don't think was necessarily very good. I'm fine with making that argument. I will stand on that one. But they beat an Ohio State team that we know was. And they beat them pretty comfortably. And then they go ahead and beat an Ole Miss team that just came off a win against Georgia, probably the hottest offense in college football up to that point. They don't necessarily stop them, but they control the game enough to win it. And they do enough against Chambliss to make him uncomfortable, make him less efficient, make the numbers not look great at the end of the day. I think Miami's resume coming up to this point is stronger than Indiana's. I get they have the 2 losses. I get those were bad, but those feel like 2 years ago now. This feels like a completely different, reinvented team. I'm not saying I fully believe it, but I am saying that there is this very valid argument you can make that Miami might just be a better team, and we just haven't seen Indiana play anyone that good.
And now the ceiling for Mendoza is number 1 pick. What's the worst that happens? He throws 3 picks tonight. Indiana just can't score. He fall out of the first round, or no way he can fall out of the first round?
No, and I think he'll be number 1 no matter what, realistically. Like you saw Dante Moore go back to college. Trinidad Chambliss is for some reason still trying to go back to college, even though I think he would be a day 1 starter in the NFL. There just isn't that much competition for Mendoza. Like I wouldn't put Ty Simpson over him necessarily. I don't think Beck could jump him. There's some other interesting options, like Nussmeier's an interesting case, but I'm not taking Nussmeier first overall or anything. So it's
so no matter what, Mendoza goes number 1 in your mind. Carson Beck, worst case scenario, Indiana wins similar to what they did to Oregon. Carson Beck is terrible. It's one of Carson Beck's worst games. Can he go as low as the 4th, 5th round? And then flip it for me. He's just fucking awesome tonight. He's just amazing. Puts it together. He goes in the top 10. Like, is that a fair thing to say? Can his ceiling and his floor be that dramatically affected by this game tonight?
So that's the weird thing about him is it's his 3rd year starting in college football. We know what he is. We know that when he plays his best, he is unreal. Like he probably from a ceiling potential, I would say is above Mendoza. I think he could be a better quarterback than Mendoza. And I think on his day, he is. The issue is he's off his day very often. It happens, I would say, about a quarter of the time is he will play bad and he will make dumb mistakes. He doesn't think a ton about what he does. Sometimes it looks like he doesn't really watch a ton of film. He's just playing off of his just vibes of the game and his just raw talent. So I think that teams know what he is now. I think the interesting thing is how different teams are valuing what Carson Beck is. I think there are some teams that will look at him and say, I wouldn't draft him until the 4th or 5th round. I think there are some teams that would say, I'd take a flyer in the first on him. So I think like if you can see him play composed at this high of a level, I think it definitely like raises that 4th or 5th to like a 2nd or 3rd or a 3rd or 4th for some teams. But I think the teams that already like Carson Beck aren't going to see anything in that national championship game that will scare them off as much as people think. Like we know he can have games where he throws 4 picks. He did it against Bama last year, but he looked great against Bama too. Once he got out of that rhythm, he played a flawless 3rd quarter and most of the 4th. And so like it with a guy like him, he's such a variable prospect. Like he's older, but he's tall. Like there's so many different ways to look at him that I think every individual NFL team will have a completely different analysis on what Carson Beck could bring to the table. That I really feel like he only has stuff to benefit from this game.
And Mendoza, you think is locked in? Is there any particular props? I'll get you out of here on this. Because it sounds like the way you're leaning, put words in your mouth here, is you really think Miami can hang with them tonight. Like you're not going to be surprised if Miami wins this game. So what does that look like from a prop bet, from a game theory? Like if Miami's going to pull this off, because you did a pretty good job of explaining, hey, it's on the table for Indiana to just blow them out. I think everyone that's been following at this point knows that that's on the table. What I think we're more interested in is like, if Miami's going to win this game, is it similar to the Ole Miss game or is it more similar to the Ohio State game? Because from a betting standpoint and prop standpoint, I can make money with some over bets here with Miami because I'm going to get really good value. But if it's going to be a grind, if the only way they can really beat Indiana is grinding it out the way they did against Ohio State and A&M, then talk to me. So any particular players or, like I said, random props that kind of just jump out to you for this game?
Yeah, I mean, you got to look at the one game Indiana probably should have lost. You got to look at Penn State. What happens in that game? I think it ends up being like 27-26, basically like right there, mid-20s, mid to high 20s. I could see that being how it works because you're not going to shut down Indiana's offense. They're going to score points. Mendoza's too efficient. They will have drives where they look great because he's somehow efficient, but then he can also make the deep play. I don't see them scoring less than 25. Like they'll probably put up relatively close number to Ole Miss.
Miami's got to get to 30 to win this game.
That's basically what I'm saying is, Miami would need to break it down and play well. And like, it won't be like a 24-14 like you saw against Ohio State. They're not going to hold them to 14. I think Ohio State's offensive floor is a lot lower than Indiana's. I think it's close to where Ole Miss's offense was. And that being said, it is going to be on Carson Beck's shoulders a little. I wonder what Indiana's answer is for a guy like Malachi Toney. It feels like a matchup that should favor Toney. I think that should be the Miami offensive mindset is let's get this guy the ball. Like you saw against Ole Miss, he was able to get the ball like right at the line of scrimmage, run for 40 yards into the end zone. Like he's that good. If he can catch screen passes that well, use him aggressively. But it'll also come down to Mark Fletcher Jr. running the ball really well up the middle. They're going to need to run the ball effectively. But I love Toney if they're going to win. And then on the other side of the ball, Miami's not going to let Indiana run for it. It'll be on Mendoza's shoulders. It just simply has to be. Miami has a great front seven. That's not where they're going to win the game. They're going to have to win the game through the air a little bit here. And I would see that it would be Surratt for Indiana. It would be Mendoza. It's going to be that 1-2 punch. It's been good all season. It wouldn't just stop all of a sudden if they're going to move the ball well on offense. I feel more confident betting on Indiana players here. But I also think like Beck passing yards has a pretty comfortable like variation range because if they're losing, he's going to have to throw. If they're winning, I expect them to still throw the ball a decent bit.
Yeah, I can't bet against Miami if I know Ray Lewis is going to be there pumping up the defense. I'm going to put that out there. So that I think that counts as a variable. I can't decide if the home field helps. I think it helps Indiana in the sense that they can convince themselves they're the underdog, which gives them like some sort of chip on their shoulder because it's hard to be the favorite when you're a kid like that and everybody expects it out of you. But Miami's home, so so much. I don't know. I still need to think about it. I don't feel confident to really bet a significant amount of money on the game, but I have a hard time thinking that Miami's going to get blown out tonight. But the spread makes me I'm a victim of that because when it came out, I thought Indiana would be like a 4.5 point favorite. To see them be 7.5 or 8.5, depending where you're looking, is certainly eye opening. But I appreciate you giving your 2 cents on it. You want to give me a absolute final prediction, get you off the fence, got you leaning different ways. But if I told you you got to give me a final score, what do you got?
I mean, look, I will agree with it. It's a contrarian opinion. I could see it being I want to say 31-24, 31-27. I want Miami to beat Indiana. I can see it happening. I don't think it's being talked about enough as a real possibility. And yeah, I think you get the home field advantage. I think if Miami gives them that punch in the mouth early on, Indiana didn't respond well against a backup quarterback at Penn State. This is a rough spot to be playing for them as well. I think they can get it done.
Oh man, that would be Indiana. It almost feels like Indiana has to win this year in the sense like Miami's back, they'll reload. It's a destination place, but yeah, Indiana. It's like they built this perfect program. Last year was a stepping stone, getting their ass absolutely handed to them by Notre Dame, coming back pissed off. The perfect storybook ending. Can they get it done? We'll find out. Thanks, bro. Appreciate you doing this in the middle of the day. I'll catch you soon. I'll definitely pop one here at the latest Sunday morning and break down both games and give you guys my bets. Hope everybody has a great day. And cool. I'll see you later, man.
All right. Yeah.
All right.